Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Play the Tape. I am your host. My name is Derek J. Fields. Full disclaimer: we are not licensed social workers, clinical therapists, drug and alcohol counselors. We will and we do have those on the show, and in the future and in the past episodes. But what Play the Tape is a platform for support, community, and advocacy for people with mental health challenges, substance use, and recovery. Um, my guest today is a friend of mine, someone that I have, a sister of mine, someone that we share a common bond in humor. Is definitely the best medicine for healing. Today, she is going to share her experience, strength, and hope, her testimony, and her trials and tribulations, and how she's overcome a lot of her mental instability to get to where she is today. So, without further ado, I want to introduce my guest today, comedian Paula, trophy wife Clarke. Listen, my sister, listen, thank you for being here. Again, I know we talked off air about schedules and how things in life can happen. But it's an honor and a pleasure. And the floor is yours. So take it away.
Okay. Okay. Hi. My name is Paula, trophy wife Clarke, and comedian Paula, trophy wife Clarke, and I am really grateful to be here today. Full of gratitude right now because I love talking about me. I'm my favorite subject. You know what I'm saying? And I just want to start out by saying that, I give God all the glory for this interview. I'm like really honored right now to be doing this. I am outside of Walmart. I had a Walmart run this morning and I forgot all about, I was scheduled to do this at 1 o'clock and I'm in Walmart. I have no makeup on. I got a t-shirt and some leggings and I went to the nail tech this morning to get my nails removed because I've been wearing them for 2 years straight and they started breaking and it started hurting. So I had those removed and I got caught out here like this. But you got to be always ready. So you don't have to get ready. So I stay ready. Like I got a pouch with some stuff in it. You some lip gloss on my lips,
Right.
some eyebrows on right quick. And the Gucci frames is always gang gang.
Always. There you go.
So, so Trophy wife is ready. But just a little bit about me. I grew up in Mobile, Alabama, down south on the Gulf Coast. Baby New Orleans. That's exactly what it is. Mobile, Alabama was discovered 20 years probably before New Orleans. And so New Orleans named their streets and stuff the same as downtown Mobile. It's the same names, Canal Street, things of that nature. Home of the original Mardi Gras, we are, but because New Orleans is a bigger city, they claim it. But it's okay. You haven't been to Mardi Gras till you come to Mobile.
No,
Okay?
that's right.
Yes, yes, because Mardi Gras in New Orleans, they only throw beads. It smell like piss. It smell like alcohol and beer and piss. But you come down south, further down south to Mobile, you're going to smell barbecue ribs. Yes, you are. You're going to smell barbecue ribs, people cooking out on the back of their trucks, okay?
Okay.
Let me tell you. And so, and we throw everything that the Dollar Tree sell. We don't just throw beads. What you going to do with a bunch of beads when you get home? People need toilet paper and trash bags. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's how the Mardi Gras is there in Mobile. So I was raised in Mobile, Alabama in the 60s. I am the last of the baby boomers. I was born in 64. And I am 59 years old. And I'm going to tell you, I have lived two lives in one lifetime. And I'm going to start out by saying I grew up watching all white television. And my first inspiration for comedy was Lucille Ball and Carol Burnett. I'm going to be
Mm-hmm.
honest.
Absolutely.
And my third person that influenced me was Flip Wilson. Nobody gives Flip Wilson any props. You never hear about Flip Wilson. Flip Wilson was the first man I seen in a dress imitating a woman, not Medea, not Tyler Perry, but Flip Wilson. And he had this make believe boyfriend that was in prison named Killer, and his name was Geraldine. Well, you never got to see Killer, but it was really, really funny. You know what I'm saying? And it was improv comedy, and it was really, really good. So that influenced me as a child. You know, coming up to do comedy, I was really a curious child, very adventurous, and always in this stuff. You know, I wasn't like a normal child. Like I didn't want to watch cartoons. If I watched a cartoon, it had to be giving me some type of message. You know, I had to be stimulated mentally by the cartoon. So I did dig the Jetsons, and I liked the Flintstones because Flintstones was prehistoric, and the Jetsons was what's going on today. They had computer screens. They had Apple watches. They flew in the sky. You see what I'm saying? The
Absolutely.
Jetsons.
Mm-hmm.
So that stimulated me. And all that stuff I seen on the Jetsons, the flat screen TVs, we live in that right now. So, you know, I watched that. And for the most part, I used to like to watch Carol Burnett, Lucille Ball, and the Rat Pack. And that's how I grew up. And I grew up, you know, watching white men bring their wives flowers home and candy, especially after an argument. I grew up watching white women finesse the white men to get what they wanted: mink coats, diamond rings, and pearls. And so in my mind, that's what I wanted. Because in my house, my parents, they took good care of us. Don't get me wrong, but they fought a lot. I never seen no real like kissing and hugging and emotion like that. And like Daddy did buy candy on Valentine's Day and stuff like that, but he would give it to us to give to her. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's different from what I was seeing on TV in people, in white people. And so I wanted that. You know, in my head, I had fantasized about carrying that little luggage that white women used to carry through the airport when they came through the airport with their mink coats on. They had this little makeup case luggage, and
Mm-hmm.
they called themselves trophy wives. And so I grew up with that shit in my head. Excuse my French, I won't cuss anymore. But I grew up with that in my head, and I fantasized about that, and that's what I wanted. You know, that was my first drug of choice, fantasy. Living in a world where I was rich and famous. I used to put a towel on my head and act like I was white. I didn't like the ashy skin. I didn't understand why our hair wasn't straight and things of that nature. And I grew up in an era where we were kind of shielded from racism. Like it was going on, but I didn't know it was going on until I got bused to an all white school.
Mm-hmm.
When I got bused to an all white school, the white kids fell in love with me because I was a very personable person. You know, I talked to everybody. They would rub my skin. I would rub their skin. Now we're in Alabama. You know, we're in Alabama in the early 70s. You know, by the time I entered first grade, it was 1969, 1970. And so by the second grade, I was bused to an all white school. And like my parents' background was my mom came from a single family household, raised only by her mother, no father in the household. And my dad came from a two-parent household where his all his siblings went to college, and the boys all went to the military. And they went to college, except for my father. My father didn't opt to go to college. He didn't want to further his education that way, so he went to work. You know, blue collar worker, 18-wheeler driver, hard worker though, very hard worker, and did 8 years in the military. And he was an excellent provider, but he was very, very strict. And he was basically giving us what he was given. So him and my mom was from two different backgrounds. My mom was from a background with a single mother, and they scrambled and they struggled, but they made ends meet. You
Mm-hmm.
know, they knew how to sew, they knew how to do hair, so they kept themselves pretty. And my mother attracted my father because my mother ran an all night after hours joint where they sold alcohol after the club closed. And my father, being in the military, um, he was stationed in the area and came to my mother's after hours joint, and that's how he met her. He had no clue she was almost 10 years older than him because she looked very good for her age. And so that's where Trophy Wife gets it from. But anyway, anyway,
Right.
but they were from two different sides of the track, so I had two different messages growing up. I had one message saying that C's were acceptable. Um, in grades, C's were acceptable by my mother, and my father demanded A's and B's. And it was just two different messages. My mom said, "At least you're passing."
Which message stuck out to you to try to emulate? Because I wanted to take it back, Miss Paula. You are the first guest I've had up here that has introduced the addiction of fantasy. That is very intriguing to me.
Yes,
Fantasy to it be enticed to. I want that. I
at
want
an
that
early
at an
age.
early age, right? That is interesting and deep to me because I've never heard. It's always been either something tangible or a substance or a sexual impulse, but fantasy, man, that's different. That
Yes.
is different. So, which way were you pulled as far as the different your mother's background on how she was raised or your father's background on how he was raised? Which one was more demanded of you at that time?
Man, that was like a Soul Train Scrabble board. Let me tell you,
Oh,
I was pulled both ways because I'm bad and bougie. I got the gangster side, the ghetto side, a little twist from my mama's side. Then I got the book sense and the prim and the properness from my daddy's side. I got it both ways, and they didn't understand me. They didn't know what the hell to do with me. You know what I'm saying? Because I was all over the place. I was grown before my time. You heard me say I didn't even want to watch cartoons if it didn't stimulate me intellectually. It had to send me somewhere. I was watching TV, and in fantasy was my drug of choice. I was married to McGarrett, and I was married to Dano on the YU50. I
mm-hmm.
was married to Frank Sinatra. I was married to Dean Martin. I divorced Dean Martin, and I met. I can't think of that other guy that was in the Rat Pack. He was the brother-in-law. But anyway, I married everybody but Sammy, because Sammy liked white women. Sammy Davis Jr. liked white women, so I married all the Rat Pack in my mind. I'm by myself playing in my room with my towel on my head, and I'm brushing it. Fantasy. I'm acting as if I'm a trophy wife at a young age. So I was pulled both ways. To
Mm-hmm.
answer your question, I lived two lives in one lifetime. I
Mm.
was able to fulfill the wishes of my father after my addiction by returning to school, completing college. And I heard you say that there are no licensed substance abuse where I am, a CSAC.
Well, thank
I
you.
currently work in the field as a substance abuse counselor. I currently also am a mental health counselor. So you have your guest today is qualified to give
Thank
sound advice, and I
thank
stand
you.
behind my license and certification.
because
So,
because because we got to I want, and I'm glad that you said that, and I make disclaimers sometimes because sometimes our guests are just regular people that don't have
yes,
those qualifications like yourself. um but
right, and I'm glad you did that.
I want to get to that at some point in once you get done with your backstory, because I want to know the impact that you have, that you see. Hey, I have a caseload, or I have personnel, or I have people, human people, that their lives are in the palm of my hands, meaning that they come from me for some type of guidance, some type of s- experience, because you have it.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
how does that impact your mental stability, making sure that you make sure that they have the tools they need? We're going to get there because I feel like
Uh-huh.
that's a very important part of your story and testimony that you have.
It
But I
is.
want you to continue to explain how you were married to the fantasy, how you was pulled both ways, and what
Okay.
led to all the different things that happened in Miss Paula's life leading up to.
Okay. Up to the second half,
Yes.
to the other life. And so yeah, being raised in a household, watching, all white television, I was very interested in comedy from the start. I used to love to watch Carol Net, and I used to love to watch, just comedy, anything funny. And then and during the other times, I would entertain myself because I kind of pulled away from my siblings. There were three other siblings growing up in the house with me, because like I said, my mother was older than my father, and he didn't know how old she was. So when he first came to visit her, she never told him she had four children, and they were four older children. As a matter of fact, my oldest brother is like 10 years younger than my father. You see what I'm saying? So he bought them ice cream and cookies over. When he bought wine over for him and her to drink, he bought them some liquor or wine or something to drink. But he bought them ice cream and cookies, and my brother came out of the back room and said, "Let me get a shot of that liquor." You know,
Mm.
he looked. My dad looked like this dude almost old as me. You know what I'm saying? You told me you had children. This a grown man. So like I said, and then my mom, they ended up getting married, and she had four for her second husband, which was my father, and so there were three other siblings in the house with me, and I was so different than them. They were so obedient. They did everything my daddy said. They used to make me sick, because I was defiant from the womb. And my dad said go right, I went left. He said go left, I went right. I just had my own mind made up. I had premeditated behind whoopings, because let me tell you what I used to do. I knew I was going to get a beating when my dad got home. So I would put shorts, about two or three pairs of shorts under my jeans, so that it wouldn't hurt so much. Because my dad would he would take the belt and he would
Mm-hmm.
whip us. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
I would pad myself up, because I'm going to do what I want to do. Okay, let's be clear. So I had to pad up because I was gonna get a whooping, and I was all right with getting one. And my siblings couldn't understand that. They was like, she gotta be crazy. Dad's gonna kill her. She continues to do what she want to do when she want to do it. Dad's gonna kill her. And so I just grew up real defiant. I played alone a lot. I did a lot of make believe. I did commercials when I went to the bathroom. I always felt like I was on a TV stage or set. Fantasy. I was just never in the present.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was always somewhere else. I made the best out of a bad situation. My father was also a functioning alcoholic. And man, you think living with an alcoholic, a raging alcoholic, skid row alcoholic is bad. Try living with a functioning one, because they still want everything to run smoothly, and they want to drink when they get ready. And if they're not drinking, they're very grouchy, they're very irritated, they're mean, you know what I'm saying? And they don't want to really talk or play with you like a dad does a child unless they've had something to drink. And my dad never got DUIs. He never went to jail. He never missed a day of work. He was a functioning alcoholic. We had to iron his boxers, okay? He was real dapper. He dressed real nice, and he was strikingly handsome, and so he was really strict on us because his parents were strict on him. And so my mom was kind of lenient because she grew up in a single parent household. She grew up with her mother telling her to date men that would be able to take care of her and her children if she had some. To date men with a stable background. Make sure that there wasn't any retardation or waterhead babies born in his family, because you might have a retarded baby. This is the stuff that my grandmother told my Medea.
Mm-hmm.
We call my mama Medea. I'm from New Orleans, Mobile, a couple of hours apart. That's why Tyler Perry came up with Medea, because that's what we used to call our mom. And, people used to think that Medea was her name, but it's short for Mother Dear, and we just, we down south, we kind of run words together. We
Right.
can take a 5 sentence paragraph and make one word. I'm telling you,
Mm-hmm.
so Medea was told to date men with substance, um, date men that parents were had a little something. So my grandfather was a landowner, and he owned over 60 acres. He owned the land where the church was, and my grandfather was punished for trying to teach himself how to read. He was put in a barn for like 2 weeks, eating hay and drinking water. Just this is what he survived off of, because they said, we were going to teach you a lesson, you uppity nigger, because you want to read, and you're
Mm-hmm.
not going to learn how to read. But lo and behold, my grandfather learned how to read, and he sold his timber off of his land. And so in the contract, it stated, for every tree you cut, you must plant one. And he did that because he learned how to read. And to this day, we still live off the timber on my grandfather's land because of that contract that he wrote, because he learned how to read. So that's my father's father, and that's the background I come from. Like, my grandmother raised my mother, and she raised her to seek out people with substance. My mom got the assignment right because she sought out my father, even though my father wasn't a college graduate, but all his siblings were.
Mm-hmm.
Father basically was finished, did a really good job in the military, got out and got a really good job, and helped his father send his siblings to college. And so my mom, met him when he came by her after hours joint, and when he came by her after hours joint, he fell in love with her because she could cook, she could clean, she was pretty, and she didn't look her age, and she could handle her business. She was smart, like my mom only had a sixth grade education, but she was a whole lot smarter than my dad, a whole lot smarter. And he completed high school and 8 years military, but she was smarter than him. And so this is the environment I was raised in. Like I said, I had two different messages, and boy, I was determined to do what I wanted to do. My dad was like the black sheep of his family, and my dad was also comical. He was very funny, he was very witty, and I think I got that part from him, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And so I grew up in that type of household, being pulled in two different directions. And then when I grew up, they built the first project in not the first project in our neighborhood. It was around 1972 or 73. So by the time I got 16 years old, I kind of like, no, I was before I was 16. I would think I was around 13 when I ventured off to the projects, because they had like these softball leagues where they had girls softball teams. I was kind of athletic. I wanted to be athletic. I was knock kneed, so I couldn't run that fast, but I wanted to be. Okay,
Okay.
wanted to be. I wanted to
Yeah.
be everything. That I can be.
Right.
And I wandered off over there to play softball on the little softball league team, and I ended up enjoying myself. Everybody was outdoors. Everybody was from a single parent household. They didn't have a alcoholic father in the household, telling them what to do, telling them what to wear, telling them what to watch. They had to make straight A's. They couldn't curse. They couldn't play cards. We couldn't do anything in my house, and most of the people in the project had single parent households. There were no fathers. It was women raising their children. And I liked it over there. They ain't have no man in the house telling them what to do. And I used to beg my mom, please leave and we can move to the project. We'll be okay. But my mom was not going anywhere because my dad laid the money on the dresser, and my mom and my dad didn't know how old my mother was, and he never knew how much money she made. Ain't that weird?
Mm-hmm.
He just gave his part, and he knew that it was food there, the lights was on, the car insurance was paid, the car note was paid, the mortgage was paid. He just knew everything was taken care of, and
Right.
we were fed and clothed and everything. But he never questioned her of like how much you make per hour, or what are you doing, how much money you bring. He never even thought, because we were raised that the man take care of everything,
Mm-hmm.
back then. So But he didn't even know how old she was. So when she retired 10 years before he did, he was really upset. He should have kind of guessed how old she was because she had a son, two sons in Vietnam when I was a baby, when I was young, little girl. So anyway, that's how I grew up, and we never wanted for anything. I thought we had a lot of money, but my parents were side hustlers. Like my dad would package up peanuts, take them to the job and sell them. My mom sold penny candy, froze cups. We call them frozen cups. Y'all call them some other kind of cups in Virginia. They call them something else, but my mom was the candy lady. And
Mm-hmm.
my grandmother was the candy lady, her mother. And my mom sold beer, and my mom sold shots of liquor. And so my parents had side hustles. My mom sewed, made clothes, and she also did hair. They did so many different things, till I actually thought we had a lot of money. So I ventured off into the projects that they built once I turned about 13, started playing softball, started staying over there after dark, getting a whipping every night. Okay. My dad said it's okay to go play, but you can't stay past the street light. You got to be
Right.
home before dark. No, I wouldn't come home from before dark because I had met a little guy, light skinned with curly hair, because I'm still looking for that white man. Now, I'm still looking for that white man. So I found a little light skinned boy in the projects that had real soft curly hair and light eyes. He was close to the white man that I could get. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I started seeing him, kissing him, love the tongue kiss. Could do that for hours. And so I started smelling myself, as they say back then, and I definitely wasn't coming home. I started cutting class at school, skipping school just to be with him all day, and my life took a turn when I went to those projects. I started hanging out. My grandmama was gone by this time because my grandmother died when I was 10, and she raised me from a baby until 10 because my mom had to go to work. So my mom had an in-house babysitter, which was her mother. And her mother died when I was 10. My grandmother died when I was 10 years old. So by this time, grandmama was gone, and there was nobody to hold us accountable for staying home. So I was running wild while my parents was at work, and the projects was one of my favorite places to stay. I've always had an attraction to older women
Mm-hmm.
because my grandmother raised me from 0 to 10, or older lady. See, so I try to find my grandmother in every older woman I meet. If it's not for some advice, some guidance, because first of all, she has to be smart. She has to be up on herself. She can't be no any older woman. You see what I'm saying? She has to be able to teach me something, stimulate me intellectually, and teach me something. And God has blessed me throughout the years to meet all kinds of women in this status and of that statue. And I've been fortunate. So I met this woman in the project. Her name was Josephine Jackson. Lord have mercy. May she rest in peace. I hope she's not dead, but the lifestyle she lived, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, and I'm talking about if she's not dead, may she rest in peace at night when she goes to sleep. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Anyway, anyway, I met Josephine, and house, Josephine had kids, and Josephine lived in the projects, and Josephine dated a man that was a Mac. We call them Macs. You see, it's a difference between a pimp and a Mac. A Mac don't just pimp women. A Mac has the dope game. He runs numbers, and he has women on the street. You understand? A
Mm-hmm.
pimp, a pimp's only hustle is women, and his only hustle is women that are broken, women that are dope fiends. You see what I'm saying? That he
Yes.
gets his game. He gets his game off of a woman, a broken woman. But a Mac has several different streams of income, as we call it today. So I met Josephine, and she was the madam of a Mac. Josephine ran the women. Josephine made sure a lot of the drug transactions was taken care of. Now, mind you, she lives in the project though. But when you walked in there, you didn't think you was in the project. The floors were shiny. She had white leather sofa, white leather love seat and chair. She had red carpet. It was red, white, and green in there. You see
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? It was
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. And so I wandered over there. Now I'm not doing drugs. I'm just curious. I'm just fascinated.
The fantasy part aspect of it. The
Yes.
fantasy, yes.
Now that's the same fantasy I had when I was at home watching TV.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's real life. And now I am attracted to the 70s groove. The 70s groove is drugs, gambling, prostitution, how much money you gonna make and how bad your clothes are. Your rags, as they used to call them. You know, she got some bad rags and stuff. I'm attracted to this now. And I'm going through the 70s. And I'm fastly approaching the 80s. And look, so I meet Josephine. I go to Josephine's house every day. I sit on the floor with my hands under my chin like this, listening and looking and taking notes of everything. The men would be in and out. And one particular guy, which was a pimp, because pimps came to Josephine's house, as well as drug dealers, as well as other Macs, number runners, and other prostitutes and drug addicts, and everybody came there. And so this one particular pimp used to say every day, if she hit a mine, I'll never forget it. As long as I live, Derek. He said, if she hit a mile, I'm pimping her ass. Josephine said, you can pimp every little girl in this neighborhood, but keep your hands off of her. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
She was older. She was 32 years old. I was 16. She had that protection that my grandmother used to protect me from. That my grandmother used to protect me with. My grandmama used to protect me from the monsters I used to see in my dreams. You see what I'm saying? So my
Yes.
grandmother, if I would dream a dream, I slept with my grandmother most of the time. I used to wake up consciously inside of my sleep and say, my grandma gonna get them. They not gonna mess with me because my grandmama gonna get them. And I would go back to sleep. So Josephine protected me like my grandmother. Because remember, I told you, every older woman I meet, I look for my grandmother in her.
So not only did Josephine have the fantasy allure, she had that authority. She
Oh,
had that presence.
she
She
was a
had that stimulation of your intellect. Josephine had it all for you at that time. That had you.
she had mink coats, diamond rings, jewelry, nice clothes, nice car. She just lived in the projects. She was all right. She lived in the middle of what was going on, and she was all right with that. It was cool to live in the projects in the 70s. They were freshly built units. They were nice. They had tennis courts and swimming pools for the kids. You know, when the projects were first built, they were nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then over the years, they got destroyed. So she was happy. She was happy, and she was well groomed, well put together, and smart. And she used to handle all the business of her boyfriend, who was a Mac. That's why Too Short calls himself a Mac. And see, a lot of young boys out here to my big pimping. I'm big pimping. You don't even know what a pimp is, because the truth of the matter is, Derek, a pimp would take the muscle if the girl can't. And I'm gonna say it like that. I'm gonna try to be as discreet as I can.
Yeah, I know what
I
you're saying. Yes. Mm-hmm.
had a pimp. That's why they giggling and they hair long. You know, come on, man. You pimp. No, you prefer to be a Mac with several streams of income. Okay, you're a rapper. You got a shoe line. You know what I'm saying? You got a jean line. You're selling jeans and t-shirts, tennis shoes. You know what I'm saying? That's a Mac.
Yes.
These are modern day Macs. You know what I'm saying? Modern day Macs. Some of the individual artists, rap artists who have several streams of income. Jay-Z is the ultimate Mac. You see what I'm saying? So I was stimulated early with that lifestyle. So Josephine told me one day, she said, "You're not going to stop coming around here. I can see that now. I'm not going to be able to keep you from this world. So I'm going to teach you everything you need to learn to survive." She taught me when to hold them and when to fold them. She taught me when to talk and not to talk. And I am convinced today that what she taught me helped me survive the street, because I didn't come from that background. Like, I didn't really know. I knew that my mother's side of the family were hustlers, and most of them had moved to New York and things of that nature. Her nieces, because she had two sisters, and they both died early. One died from obesity, and the other one died from alcoholism. So, their children had moved to New York, and they were hustlers. But I never really spent a lot of time with them. But DNA is, DNA. You
DNA,
know what
right?
I'm saying? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had a portion of my mother's side in me, even though I ain't hang out with them and learn from them, but I had it in me, you know. And so I had a big portion of my daddy in me too, and so I grew attracted to the life. Josephine began to groom me. She began to groom me, not in a bad way. She began to teach me how to survive, because she
Okay.
knew I was a part of the lifestyle.
So
And so people
we
today
got
would look at, huh?
Miss Paula. We got 20 minutes. So this is what
20
I want to
minutes.
do. No, no, no. This is
Woo!
what I want to do. I want you to finish all of this because I'm gonna have you come back on to.
Okay, part two.
I'm gonna no, yeah, we're gonna have a part two, part three, because I want to finish this. I want to get to how you transition from that part of your life to finding how good God is, to him using you to give
Mm.
back and pay it forward to
Oh
what you
yeah.
do now. So
Okay.
that's we gonna yeah. So you got 20 minutes. Go ahead and do your thing because you
Okay.
coming
Let me.
back.
Okay.
So she was
Okay.
grooming. So she was grooming
she
you in
she
a
was
good way.
grooming me
Hmm.
in a good way, so that I can learn how to maneuver through the streets. She was teaching me the street life. She knew I was a kept girl. My dad didn't allow us to do anything. My dad had girls, and he didn't allow us to do. She knew that I didn't learn this stuff in my household, that I didn't come from that. So she was gonna have to teach me, and she knew I was smart enough to catch on. And I did, and I caught on, and she taught me about drugs, and she told me never to use the white substance, even though she sniffed. As she put the spoon up to her nose to sniff, she was telling me, "Don't do this. Don't ever do this." You know what I'm saying? And she just began to tell me things about the streets, how a woman should treat her man, what a woman should expect from a man. Um, don't be taking no man beating on you. You know what I'm saying? Always have your own. If he got a lot of money, he's stone cold hustler. You always keep a stash. You know what I'm saying? Don't
Yep.
don't spend all your money in materialistic stuff, and don't have no money to dot out when you need to dot out. You know what I'm saying? Or if he get killed, or if he go to prison. You see what I'm saying? So I always, she just taught me everything about the game as to how to maneuver, and it all adds to trophy wife and how I came to be. And so at 16, this is what I was learning. By 17, I had started to smoke marijuana and drink pink champagne. It was really cool. Like, just smoke a little joint, drink a pink champagne, you know. I like the high. It made me silly. It enhanced what I already had. Lord knows I didn't need any substances, because I was way out there, personality wise, at the age of 7. So I really didn't need an added substance to all this glory. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
But I started at 17 years old, uh, drinking pink champagnes and smoking, joints and stuff. And I just celebrated 17 years last month. And so officially I'm 34 years old.
I know that's right.
And so I started at 17, smoking the marijuana, smoking the joints. I did that up until I was 18. At 18, I met my older boyfriend, who I had a son by, my first son by. He was 29 years old, and I was 18. He graduated. I don't think he graduated because I think he started doing drugs himself. But anyway, he had a scholarship to Grambling State University. HBCU is our thing. The state of Alabama in itself has more HBCUs than any state in the union. Give it up for Alabama. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So I met this guy who had money because my mom told me don't date broke people and make sure he had some nice shoes on. I don't care how he looked in the face, but long as he had on nice shoes, his hands was nice, and his teeth was good, roll with it. You
That's
know, so that's what I look for. I look for a man with some money, came from a good background and family, and had nice shoes on. So I met my boyfriend, and he had he was really smart. He had a scholarship to Grambling State University because he was one of the best drummers in the state of Alabama. He graduated in 1971. 1971, I was entering the second grade. Okay, and he had a scholarship. He came from a well-to-do family. The Hendersons, they owned their own businesses. Most of them had went to college. I did exactly what she did. What Madea taught me to do. Madea taught me how to prey on men. Madea, Josephine, they taught me. Mama, we used to call I used to call my grandmama Mama, but Mama, Madea, and Josephine taught me how to pray. And the day we would call it praying on somebody, but it was really just making sure you get with the best people. Because what I realized is today I don't want to even be the smartest person in my circle. If you are the smartest person in your circle, you're in trouble. You hear me, Derek?
Now I hear you.
Yeah, don't ever be the smartest person in your circle. Always be able to learn from somebody, and so I grew up and 18 now, and I'm dating this older guy. He's 29 years old. My mom is down with it. She understands. My mom loved to go to the racetrack. My dad is a long distance truck driver who's going 3 to 4 days out of the week. My mom was allowing me to date this 29-year-old guy because he was buying all my school clothes. I was, a senior in high school at this point. He was buying all my school clothes. He was giving me money. I was giving her money so she can go to the racetrack because she liked to go to the racetrack. Madea liked to go to the racetrack. And so I was giving her money. He was also supplying me and my friends with all the weed we wanted to smoke, and he was also just doing all these things. And my mom would allow me to see him when my dad went out of town. So when my dad came back in town, I wasn't allowed to see him. But one day, my boyfriend came to my house to pick me up. He was like, I'm tired of hiding from your dad. I want to meet your dad. And boy, he met my dad and the whole house was ablaze. My dad was like, what do you want with my child? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, it was terrible. But my dad somehow accepted it because, he drinks. When you dibble dabble in substances, you accept some things that you probably wouldn't accept. You know what I'm saying? If
Right.
you wasn't under the influence of a substance, and so I ended up dating this guy. I had my first abortion, and I'm real transparent. You'll learn that about me. I'm real transparent because what I know is everything that I went through, it wasn't designed for me. It was designed to help somebody else. So I am free today because I did a thorough full step. So I'm not ashamed. And so I got pregnant and I had an abortion. And then I got pregnant quickly again with my son. And by this time, I was growing really bored with my first older boyfriend. He had a company. They had a company together. Him and his brother. They owned these service stations. And they sold gas, and they sold cigarettes, and they sold beer and liquor and snacks and stuff like that. They had 2, 3 locations. They were doing pretty good. And then everything just went downhill for them. I found out that the whole time he was basing. He was
Mm.
basing cocaine. And he had started basing um, cocaine his senior year at Grambling State, and he didn't graduate. You know what I'm saying? They ended up sending him back home because he had already started to do cocaine probably in college. You know, and I found out that he was basing. He was freebasing cocaine. I found a drawer full of glass pipes. Um, at this time, I had started living with him. and my money would disappear and stuff like that. And I noticed the gas was cut off and things of that nature. And at this time, he was on his way to his bottom. You know what I'm saying? He had free base cocaine all this time, and he was headed to his bottom. He was getting ready to stop. This was like '83. You know what I'm saying? Crack hadn't even come out yet. Now, crack hadn't come hit the streets yet, but he was already at his bottom as a freebaser. And so I got pregnant again with my son, and by this time I'm sniffing cocaine now. I'm sniffing cocaine. Before I got pregnant with my son, I started sniffing cocaine around 19. I started hanging out with people that dealt cocaine, and they dealt a lot of it. And I had started sniffing. But when I got pregnant from the older guy that I was seeing, and not the other guys, because I was already involved with somebody else at the same time I was involved with my son's father. But lo and behold, he turned out to be my boyfriend's son. And I had the baby. I stopped using drugs. I started working at Spring Hill College. It's the third largest Catholic college in the United States. I started working for some Jesuit priests. They ran the college. Most of them were recovering alcoholics, and I didn't even know it. Um, and I started working there before I got pregnant. And I was using, after I had the baby, I started back using really bad. I started back sniffing, and I started dating a drug dealer. Um, First drug dealer I ever dated was he dealt marijuana, but he used to provide cocaine for me. I used to sniff cocaine out of a Vicks inhaler. They still sell Vicks inhalers, you know,
Mm-hmm.
around, they got menthol in them, but we used to clean them out and put the raw cocaine in them so you can just sit right at the bar and do a perfect one-on-one. Um, and I blew the blood vessels in my nose because that's a straight shot. So I didn't even get to sniff cocaine for that long until I had destroyed. I had holes in my nose, and I couldn't even hardly hold my head down. My nose used to bleed a lot. I'm 19. I'm fine as hell. I'm dating men twice my age. You know, um, and I'm living the life. So I think, you know.
Yes.
Um, and so I started dating this. I did the drug dealers by level. The first drug dealer was a marijuana dealer, and it got to the point with him, he wasn't stimulating me enough. He wasn't giving me enough. He wasn't teaching me anything either. Because remember, I am the one that has to be stimulated mentally. Okay, so he wasn't. I grew bored with him. He wasn't college educated. Okay, like my daughter's father was, the first older gentleman that I dated. So he wasn't stimulating me. He wasn't doing it for me. So I met a Muslim cocaine dealer, and Lord have mercy, he was not only practicing the religion, a Muslim religion. He was educated. He was smart. He was he was smooth. He stimulated my intellect. He was mean. Um, he was um, he was a provider. Like, it was three or four of us, and all of us had cars and apartments, and he took care of everybody. Um,
So
and he was abusive. Yes.
what it was, okay, the fantasy, the stimulation, the
Mhm.
intellectual stimulation, and
Mhm.
the educated, the provider that had substance. And when we mean substance, um, depth in character,
Yeah.
or depth
In
in background,
intellect.
in intellect,
Yeah.
in background. These
Background. Good family. Smart. Street savvy. All of it. The total package.
these were things that drew you in to what you
Whew.
thought you needed at that time to satisfy your fantasy. That is Miss Paula. That's I can
That's true.
relate. I can
Whew,
relate on and
you
on
can
a lot of that as far as the whole growing up part, humor. For me, it was Martin. It was him taking what Flip Wilson did and doing it again. You know what I'm saying? It was that for me. So
right.
right. So I had imaginary. I had fantasy. I always felt like you as I'm on a stage and this is my production. And I'm the star. I am the star. And no, and I'm just saying this is because like we going Muslim guy in the faith, in the religion, in the study, educated, and was a cocaine. We gonna stop it there because I'm gonna have you come
Okay.
back on. I'm gonna have you come back
Okay.
on again, and we're gonna pick it up. We're gonna pick it up from
Okay.
there, and then we're gonna pick it
Okay.
up from how you transferred into having you becoming a woman of faith of God, and how you becoming
Oh yes.
being a clinical health counselor and a certified CSAC. Absolutely, because those things need to be addressed. But
Yes.
I am in awe of your story because I can relate to all of it as far as my dad was in the military, did 27 years, had a Vietnam a Desert Storm vet. Um
Oh my God.
the alcohol, the abuse, the tightness, the square, the things had to be dressed right, had to be
Yes.
squared away, right. I grew up with the mom that came from the farm, you know,
Oh my God.
was uh, the grew up with. She was one out of 11 children. You know, we call grandma mama.
Mom. We call grandma Big
My,
Mama.
yeah, we call her mom. That's my mama. Like I call my mom mom. I call my, yeah. So everything that you're saying, for the most part, I can relate. Is comedy, the stage, imaginary. I had an idea of what I wanted my life to look like in a certain way, and I had this fantasy drawn to certain different type of women because I knew the because the way I grew up, you had to be that. You had to be that man that was educated. You had to have substance.
Yeah.
You had to carry yourself a certain way. Your shoes had to be clean. To this
Yes.
day, I still keep that because your shoes still because that's what I was taught. Like you can look
Absolutely.
however you want, but a woman's gonna look at your shoes because she can tell a lot by your
Yeah.
shoes.
I'm going. I'm look. I'm doing this. I'm going up like this.
Yeah, yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm going down and up
Exactly.
to your
Exactly.
to
So
your.
I so I was in the, you know, I grew up in that street mentality. I hustled. I was a runner for one of my cousins
Oh
who went
wow.
up and down 95, and then I did the whole
Wow.
work that Burger King type thing, and then I was like, I wanted to get away from the dynamic of what my father was before God intervened into his life like he
Oh
did mine.
wow.
So I did the
Right.
military too because I thought that the military would give me some type of status, and it did for a while, but it wasn't enough. So the fantasy, the what I think I need to be apart from God, because right now at that moment, with everything that we had talked about, we
Uh
didn't
huh.
know, and I don't want to assume, but at that time, with everything that you was going through, at up
Uh
to
huh.
19 years old, did you know about have a relationship with God at that
Oh
time, or
my
it was just
God. I kind of skipped over that. Yeah, we were raised AME.
okay?
Remember I told you that my grandfather owned the land where the
Yep,
church was.
yep.
So they were pillars in the community. They were deacons. They owned the church, you know. And I was raised African Methodist Episcopal.
Mm-hmm.
Denomination is basically educators, lawyers, accountants, school teachers, nurses, professional black people um, are members of AME. Yes.
Yes. So
We were
listen,
labeled uppity. Yeah, so the religion was there.
okay, yeah, same. I grew up in the church as well, but it wasn't like I didn't know until I knew. That makes sense. You don't know until you know. But listen, we're
Yeah,
gonna stop right there. Look, we're gonna stop right there. We're gonna stop. Listen, look, we're
yeah,
gonna
because
stop right there because we're
when I got saved in '88, you know,
amen.
so oh my God, we got to talk about. We got a
Yes,
lot.
we got we do, and we're gonna get to it. I just wanted the people get an initial. background of who you are, some introduction to who
Thank
you are.
you.
But yeah, we're gonna get to all of that. You becoming saved, your journey with Christ, your certification, your license of helping people, paying it forward. Thank you.
Yes.
We gonna get to that. So listen,
Okay.
Miss Paula, Miss I love you.
I
I
love you
thank
too,
you for
Derek.
coming on my show. You're coming
You're
back.
welcome.
You're a part of season 2. But
Okay.
I'm gonna reach out to you and we'll set something up in the future. That way we can go
Okay.
ahead and get you back. So I'll have your content ready and we'll keep putting your story out there because your
I
story.
apologize that I couldn't do it
No.
in 55. I could
But
have
that's the
speeded.
but that's the point. That's the beauty of it. In the comedian world, in the entertainment, you always want them coming back for more. And
Yeah, you do. You do.
but we
It's
but
juicy at this point. I'm only 19.
right, absolutely. But see, we want them to come back for more in a positive way, in
Right,
hope and
right.
in faith and in love.
Absolutely. They
So
got to get the hope.
they got to
Yes.
get the hope. They
They
got
got
to
to
get
get
the
the
hope.
hope.
So I want to
Yes.
say thank you. I enjoyed you.
Thank you for
I'm
having me.
looking forward to your part 2, your part 3, and as many times as you want to be a guest up here. It is my pleasure. So I
Thank
want to
you.
say thank you. I love you, and
I
I'll
love
talk
you
to you
too,
soon.
Derek.
Thank
Okay,
you.
bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Listen, ladies and gentlemen, that's what Play the Tape is about. You heard it for yourself from Miss Paula. There is stories. I'm going to have people come back because there's only so much you can do in an hour time. In 55 minutes, there's only so much you can do. But listen, to have peace comes understanding. With understanding comes love. With love comes faith. And with faith comes hope. And with hope comes recovery. You ask me every time, Derek, why are you jumping in that pit with us? Why are you jumping in that pit with me? Why is these people jumping in the pit with me? Because they know the way out. That's what we do here at Play the Tape. Play that tape. You play that tape all the way out. Good, bad, or indifferent. You play that tape out. And you play that tape with people that you trust and that love you, that can give you good feedback. Listen, if ain't no one told you today that they love you, I love you. We love you here at Play the Tape. Oh, it's getting good in season 2. It is. It really, really is. I thank you. However you're listening, however you're watching, God bless you. Until next time. Peace.